All right, well, good evening to all of you guys. It's great to have everybody back here on a Monday night. Gosh, I just feel like this contest is flying by. It's hard to believe that there's really only, including this week, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's only a few more weeks left, guys. So lots of great stuff has been happening, but there's still so much more to be done. And with the holiday season right around the corner, it's the biggest opportunity for us as entrepreneurs, as business people to network. Think about all of what we learned last week and how powerful it is to network through your friends, your family, the people that you know that know other people, because we talked about that and we talked about that in depth last week about how maybe you didn't think that networking through employees or through your friends and family was much of a possibility with the Web Center program, but in reality the majority of your referrals can come from that place. I mean, professional referrals are great. And actually, Carla, who we're going to hear from tonight, is really good at getting referrals, and she learned from the best. She learned from Sugilad. Um, and so she's going to talk about getting professional referrals, but I did just want to plant this bug because this weekend we did, I mean, I can't even tell you how many events we went to for family stuff, and it was really great. And what was really cool was kind of reconnecting with people that, maybe you don't get to see as often. And everybody's asking how everybody's doing, what have you been up to? And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm genuinely excited to hear about what's going on in my people's lives. And so it's a great opportunity to network through there. And there are a lot of people that were like, oh, we're following you on Facebook. What have you been up to? What are you guys doing? Are you guys still doing this? Are you doing that? It's just a great opportunity. And so I just want you guys to know that, it's obviously not a time to be, harshly recruiting or anything like that, but it's a great opportunity to reconnect with people and get to know what they're up to and let them know what you're up to. So just, be mindful when you're at a lot of the events that are coming up. It's, Hanukkah season and Christmas season or whatever you're celebrating season. And lots of people are going to be gathering and celebrating various things, even if it's just solstice or the new year or whatever it is. So just make the most of that time and really, really talk to the people that are there. And I think that you're going to be pleasantly surprised with how many more possibilities you end up putting on your list. And that's really what tonight's lesson is all about, are different ways to add more possibilities to your list. By this point in the contest, we have thought that, okay, we worked our names list. We've worked, our employees list, people that we weren't thinking of. We've worked through social media, networking groups, all kinds of areas that we've been working. And so we're also going to talk about other ways that you can expand your possibilities or your candidate list as well. And so that's going to be the lesson of tonight, followed by a case study for a medical insurance company that's going to be presented by Carla Churek. Like I said earlier, Carla works directly with Sugi Lad. And I know that you guys all know who she is. She won the web volume contest 2 times in a row. So, I mean, what a great mentor to have and a business partner. Carla is wonderful. And one of the things I love about her is it doesn't matter what obstacles come in her way. She never views them that way. Everything is an opportunity to her, and that's why she's so successful. She's got grit, she's got stay power, she's got poise. I just absolutely love listening to her speak, and I'm excited to hear about how this candidate turned into such an incredible prospect because from what I read, they bought more than just a website, and they have some really great testimonials because they're getting leads on a weekly basis because of their website. And so Carla is going to take us through that process after our lesson, and we're looking forward to that. So, like I said last week, we're going to do bi-weekly results. So, no new results to report this week. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and go right in to our lesson of the week, which is all about expanding your network through leveraging your spending power, which is somewhere that you spend money, and working in industries that you have familiarity around. So before I actually press play on this, I did want to just remind everybody, when I say working in familiar industries, we're not talking about becoming an industry professional. That is something that actually I've gotten as a question a lot, well, what if I'm not an industry professional? Well, most of us are not, and that's okay. What we're talking about is just simply leveraging your work experience um, to have more comfortable conversations with business owners. So if you worked at a car repair shop, or you used to work in an office building for an attorney, you're more familiar with the business practices inside of that specific industry, and so you know the best times to call, some hot buttons, things that are important to people that are working in that industry. And because of that familiarity, it affects your posture, it affects the way that you communicate, the quality of your conversation, and it even gives you more clout with that person because they know that you're familiar with their industry, and that carries some weight with them. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Welcome to week 9 of the MA Web Center's 12-week action plan. This week we'll be discussing creative ways to expand your network. Now, with traditional businesses, in order to remain in business, the business owner needs to keep their inventory stocked, right? When they sell through their inventory, the next step is for them to restock their shelves so that they have more inventory to sell and to remain in business. Now, in our industry, our inventory is really people. And so when we run out of names or possibilities, the way that we remain in business is to expand our network so that we have more possibilities to work with. So this week we'll be discussing 2 creative ways that you can expand your network. The first way that we'll be discussing is how to leverage your spending power. Your power as a consumer, where you spend your money in terms of restaurants, retail establishments, or service providers can serve as an excellent way for you to expand your possibilities. The second thing that we'll discuss is how to leverage your familiarity with specific industries or your work experience. Your level of comfort in conversations will stem from that experience in those industries and can serve to be an excellent way for you to have conversations with people within other industries. So it starts by identifying what spending power or consumer power that you have, right? As a consumer of products and services, you have a foot in the door. That makes it somewhat of a warm market for you. And as a patron, the business owner and staff of that business are more likely to have a conversation with you, which will give you the opportunity to build a relationship from there. So even if your initial relationship is kind of small, just based on the ability to get your foot in the door, you can build from there. That customer business relationship can be grown to become a business to business relationship over time. And so what you want to do is you want to think about the 3 types of consumer power that you have. Most people have some interactions with restaurants on a weekly or a monthly basis. So it starts by identifying which restaurants do you currently frequent, or which restaurants have you been to. So this is an excellent column to start building. So go ahead and write down all of the different restaurants that you visited, and especially all of the restaurants that you love the most. Now on the right hand column, this part's kind of fun actually. I want you to identify at least 10 new restaurants in your area or in the area close to where you work, or places that you visit for vacation or whatever. Write down 10 new restaurants that you'd like to try out, where you might be able to, instead of going to the same restaurant that you always go to, try something new. Now, in terms of service providers, I want you to think about the different places that you spend money for services. For example, dentists or accountants or doctors or consultants or contractors, or those kinds of service providers. Identify all of the places that you actually spend money with service providers. Again, whether that's a fitness consultant or an attorney or an accountant. Write them all down, and this is going to be a great step. Now, you probably already did that, right, when you made your initial names list, but this is meant to help you to dig a little bit deeper and really think about where you're spending your money. On the right-hand side, I want you to ask yourself, are there any additional services that you might be able to try, or that you've been thinking about trying? Have you been considering having a home cleaning service, or a landscaping service, or maybe going and getting some personal training? Are there any additional services where you might want to try them for the first time, or you might be able to diversify where you're spending your money a little bit, right? So, for example, if you always go to the same hair salon, but you're not really married to that hair salon, or you're not really working with the same person and you're open to trying a new salon, try a new salon. Same thing's true for nails or auto detailers or other service providers. If it's a situation where you'd be willing to try something new so that you could get your foot in the door and have an opportunity to meet some new business owners, go for it. Write them down, identify where they are. And again, this part's kind of fun, right? You have an opportunity to, try some new things, try some new restaurants, try some new salons. It's all really stuff that you're going to do anyway, but you're just redirecting where you're spending that money so that you can now meet some more prospects. And finally, retail establishments. Now, when I ask you to write down the retail stores that you're currently spending your money, and I want you to think in terms of small to medium sized businesses, right? So local gift shops or clothing stores, or we just did a site for a clothing store that was focused on children's clothes or children's accessories, right? So think in terms of that. You want to not include your big box stores that are not going to be a possible website candidate. So, for example, you wouldn't write down Sears, because Sears is, in the Fortune 500, and they've got a very big system going on for their online retailing, and they're not looking to switch that over. And if they were, it wouldn't be with our type of provider. They need a different level of service, right? So you want to write down all of the stores that you shop at, your local jewelry store, your local, uh, all kinds of stores that exist for that. Then again, I want you to really rack your brain. Now, by the way, it's kind of a nice thing to do, isn't it? Look in your town, look in your communities, and find out, are there any other local retail establishments that you could be shopping at and supporting, by the way, which is a nice thing to do, that you might, again, be able to get your foot in the door and start a conversation, meet some new business owners. We just had this happen. We went to the mall, actually, and there was a new store that sold all kinds of collectible items. It was really cool, and I just asked a couple of questions. So I bought a small little item to give to our kids as a gift, and I asked a bunch of questions. And while I was talking to the person at the register, I found out that that person was actually the niece of the business owner and had been tasked with setting up a website. It was actually on her to-do list. I would not have done that if I didn't take the time to even know that this store existed, right? Try to shop locally. If you can try to shop locally, not only are you supporting your communities well, but you're also giving yourself an opportunity to network. Now, just a couple of tips. There are three common categories for shopping, and there's a couple of questions that you might want to keep in the back of your mind that could be very helpful when you are actually picking up the phone or walking into that place of business and talking to the business owners. So, with restaurants, some great questions to ask that would prove to find some nice valuable things that would lead to an appointment are, hey, do you have a website? Is your menu up to date? Do you guys do online reservations? And by the way, a lot of them will say yes, but they're going to be telling you that they subscribe to another service, like, for example, Open Table, where they pay a monthly subscription just to have online reservations available. Did you know that our system has an online reservation functionality built into it that is free to use? There's no additional charge. You can help them save some money by just switching over. Can they order online? Would they be happy to take lunch orders or takeout orders online? Can people purchase gift cards? Are they using social media? Do their patrons have the ability to sign up for a newsletter? Can you find them on Google? Especially if you're in a touristy kind of an area, being findable on Google and having a mobile site especially is very, very important. When you go on your vacations and you're checking out local restaurants, make sure that those restaurant websites are mobile, because as we all know, if your website is not mobile and people are Googling for a restaurant in an area, your website is not going to show up on that person's smartphone. It's going to be indexed way lower than the other restaurants that do have a mobile website. Now, if you're a tourist, most likely you are looking up those services, stores, and establishments on your mobile device. So that's another really great question to ask. If it's a service provider, do they have a website? Does it feel, or is it up to date? Do they have resources for their current customers? Is their website serving as a customer value there? Is there a customer service available on their website? Are there customer testimonials, third-party validation, newsletter sign up? Can people request a consultation or an initial appointment or an appointment in general? Are they using social media, and can you find them on Google? Now, you'll notice some of these questions cross over because they're important across every industry. And finally, retail stores. Do they have a website? Do they sell online? And how is that online shopping experience? Is it good? Is it clumsy? Is it reliable? What is that shopping experience like? Are they on social media? Are they using newsletters? Can people use coupon codes on their website? And again, can they be found on Google? So these are great questions to ask around those three different types of industries. And so as you create that names list, keep these questions in mind when you're reaching out to the people on your list. At that point, you would contact the business owner and connect the dots for them, just like any other prospect. You're a customer of theirs, so you want to establish you're not a cold caller. You're just checking out their site, and you're going to ask questions based on the research that you found, right? You're going to use your research to form good questions. Then you're going to practice the art of listening, acknowledge, rephrase, and thoughtful comment. So when they are talking and they do share a challenge with you, acknowledge that challenge. Rephrase the challenge so that they're heard, and then make a thoughtful comment. I hear that a lot these days. It's very, very common. Here's what I found, that kind of a thing. And finally, always respect their timing. Remember, if you are calling business owners in the middle of the day, then now is probably not a great time to talk. So don't ask them if it's a great time to talk. Just acknowledge that it's probably not. Hey, I know that this is probably not a great time. Here's what, I'm actually a customer of your restaurant. I was looking at your website and I had a couple of questions. When's a good time to chat for about 10 or 15 minutes, right? And then book the appointment or a 15-minute consult or find a better time to reach. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is leveraging your work experience to have more comfortable conversations with people. So sometimes a web center owner is held up and doesn't make the progress that they want to make talking to business owners because you think that you need to know all about technology. Well, that's actually, you're uncomfortable with your level of comfort, right? And so one way to have more comfortable conversations is to have belief in the product, know you can help, and honestly just be comfortable with that topic of conversation, right? And so when you've been able to have a great conversation about their industry, because maybe you've got some experience working in that industry, then you're going to be more effective when you're talking to that person, when you sell that appointment, when you make a recommendation, and that person knows that you've got experience working in their industry. They are going to believe in your recommendation even better. You're going to believe in yourself more, and they're going to believe in you more. So don't confuse this process with selling features. When I say that you need to be comfortable with the industry, I'm talking about their industry, not ours. So, for example, if you were a waitress for 10 years, then you're probably very comfortable with the restaurant industry. And so talking to restaurant owners is probably more comfortable for you than talking to lawyers, for example. So that level of comfort is going to stem from your belief and your experience in that industry. So, where have you worked? What industries do you have experience with? And how can you leverage that to have more meaningful conversations, right? If you were a restaurant working in a restaurant, the kind of contributions that you're going to make to that conversation, the types of questions that you're going to ask are going to be so much more valuable than if you haven't worked in that industry, right? Just because you're familiar with it. And just a little tidbit, if you go to the MAWC411.com website, on the downloads page, there's a marketing manual. And in that marketing manual, this is an old piece, but it's still very relevant. But in that marketing manual, there are categories of industries. And below those categories are lots of reasons why that industry would benefit from a website. So there's all kinds of industries in there. And if you want to take a look and review what we've thought, we should definitely bring that up to date. But again, it's still very relevant stuff. You might not know anything about the heating and air conditioning industry, but in that marketing manual, you'll find 5 or 6 reasons why they could use a better website. So how can you use that experience in specific industries to relate, to establish a personal connection, and to establish trust? This can be applied with people on your warm market list, or it could be applied with businesses in your area that you want to get to know, right? That second column that I asked you to write for restaurants, services, or retail stores, or just whatever. You can use this in any way. So what you want to do is you want to identify how the website can help. It helps to be very, very prepared. So when you're working in familiar industries, again, your work experience can build your business experience. You draw upon that knowledge and you ask more informed questions and you feel more confident talking to the prospect. But again, remember that you're speaking in terms of benefit to that business, not the features. The features are discussed when? During the appointment, right? And so what we ask you to do this week in your exercise is to pick an industry that you have some experience in, right? And then go ahead and identify what kinds of traditional advertising does that industry typically do. What are some specific normal product problem areas? How could a website help? How could some online marketing help? And what are some new leads within that industry, right? So for example, increased business, lunch, dinner, and breakfast. We're obviously talking about the restaurant industry, catering. Some things that they would normally do and want are being able to order out or get some gift cards. Things that they typically do for advertising is people share them, or word of mouth advertising. A lot of restaurants will also do yellow pages, placemats, billboards, radio, TV. I mean, they'll do all kinds of advertising, entertainment, community or regulars, fax, email specials, daily specials, and there's all kinds of things that they want to do. But they'll advertise that in many different ways, right? And so what you want to do is you want to take these things and you want to think about the different questions that you can ask that are going to lead to conversations around these items. These are items that the business owner of a restaurant, for example, they think about these things all the time. These are their goals, right? And this is how they're hoping to get it. But might a better website presence or might one of our digital marketing solutions help them to achieve that better and for less money? So for this week, you're going to do 2 parts of the exercise, which I've already gone over in depth, but there's 2 parts to the exercise this week. You're going to do consumer power, my restaurants, my services, new services, my retail stores, and new retail stores. And you're going to go ahead and contact those new prospects. And then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to identify an industry that you are familiar with and answer the questions below. What traditional advertising do they do? What problem areas typically exist in that industry? How might a website help? How might online marketing help? And what are some new leads in there? Make sure you contact them, that you're doing your daily operating procedures, your follow-up Fridays as well, and then you'll take it from there. All right, guys, thank you again so much. We'll see you in week 10. Sweet. All right, let me go ahead and minimize. There we go. All right, just give me one little second. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. What we're going to do now is we're going to switch gears and shift the focus over to Miss Carla Churek, who is brilliant. And like I said, I can't say enough good or great things about this woman. She's got so much going on for her, and she's really, really great with follow-up. She's really great with stay power. I don't think there is another human on the planet more patient than she. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute her, and we're going to do this interview style similar to how we did it in the past. So the client profile is on New York Health Start, which is in the medical insurance industry, and you can see here it's a really great design, Carla, and you also provided another set of screenshots. Did you want to say anything about the screenshots that we're seeing before we go into the interview?
No, I'll just include it into my responses.
Okay, awesome. Very good. All right, so let's start off with the first question. How did you meet the client? What was your initial relationship to them?
Okay, hey guys. So I met this client while I was searching for health insurance for my family. He's a local broker in the area. He was referred to me from a friend of mine that uses his services for their business medical insurance, and I also learned that he works with individuals. So to be honest, I actually got 2 referrals from 2 different local companies to choose from. However, I chose this company to call first because I noticed they had no online web presence, so I felt kind of inclined to talk to these guys first. So I called them up to inquire, and right away, Rich, the owner, was great. He was very engaged, really seemed to want to help us out. We talked about many options for me and my family. He also offered his opinion. Right then, we started to connect and build rapport right on the first call.
Great. And I think it's actually really a great timing situation that this is the case that we're talking about, today, because we just finished talking about leveraging your spending power. So, your approach was clearly through, wanting to be a customer of theirs first, right? And so, when you picked up the phone to inquire about the health insurance, did the website come up right away, or how did you decide to approach the client regarding the website?
So how I decided to approach is I, of course, went ahead and tried to Google them, and their website domain, I thought, came up in Google, and when I went to click on it, it said link broke or some weird saying. So I went ahead and just picked up the phone, trying to be a patron first because I really needed help with my medical insurance first with my family. But of course, underlining, I thought there was also a great opportunity there as well. So during the first few phone calls that I had with Rich, the owner, discussing all my needs and kind of what he has to offer, at that same time I began to check out his online web presence, his website, social media, Google, everything that we would do. And at that point I found that his website link was broken. His Facebook page was out of date, and it was combined with his personal page, which didn't seem effective to me.
Hmm.
I made a bunch of notes, and whenever we talked on the phone, I would add a question or two that was relative in that conversation. So, for example, in the beginning, I asked for additional information that I could see online. I asked him to direct me to his website so I could learn more about his services. And obviously, I knew that he didn't have one, but I wanted him to tell me that first. So when he then started to tell me that his website was out of date at the moment, and for some reason it wasn't working, so he couldn't direct me anywhere, he then told me that the guy that he was working with stopped answering his calls. And at that point, I could have stopped and jumped all over him and tried to book the appointment, but I had to remind myself that I was there to inquire about me, my family, and my needs, and that I was only asking him questions at that point at any opportunity that I had. So in addition, he started telling me that he's new in the area and he's looking to expand his business. I simply responded with, "That's great," using Sarah's favorite questions. How are you getting your name out there? And at that point, I let him drive the conversation. And based on his response, I just then acknowledged any answer that he said, and I just asked another question. So I didn't engage in exactly what he said his answer was. So in his response to me asking him how he was getting his name out there, he responded with something like, "Well, I talk to a lot of people." So I could have fed off of that, but I didn't. I went ahead and asked an additional question like, what are your business objectives? What are your goals? Certain questions that actually fit into the conversation while we were talking to keep it more engaged. And I didn't come across like I was trying to sell him anything. I truly wanted to hear what he was trying to do and how he was trying to do it.
Well, I think you just said a whole lot there. And I mean, first of all, I just want to just reiterate two quick points that Carla just made. Um, she just very clearly stated she was genuinely interested in hearing these things. And I have to say, when you're talking to, a candidate or a prospect or someone that might be a candidate, they can tell if you actually care what they're saying. And the second thing is that I love that you didn't just jump into the opportunity, but rather, to book an appointment, but rather you just focused on getting more questions out there. Because you know what? If his response was, "I'm just going to talk to a lot of people," well, okay, that's great. You don't really totally know what that means. That could mean anything from he's committed to going to a networking group every day until he meets 100 people a week, or it could just mean that he's casually relying on passive prospecting. It could mean anything. But the most important thing that you can do is what Carla did, which is engage in conversations that make your prospect feel important, make them feel heard, and make them, you actually care about them and let them feel that. They'll totally, feel your energy from there. Um, so that's all really great stuff, Carla. Would you say that? And the other thing I really loved is that you were saying, okay, when you ask questions, you ask questions that feel appropriate for the timing of the conversation. And when you said that, it just made me smile because I think that's the hardest thing to teach someone is how to just relax and have a conversation with somebody and ask normal questions that pop up. And so, like for me, like switching a conversation to someone's website, it always starts with that conversation. Well, how are you getting your name out there? Or what are you doing to advertise? Because I always try to transition so that so that my questions don't feel so scripted or they don't feel out of place. So, I really love that you said that, and I just want to ask you, do you feel like, you've gotten better and better at having those conversations comfortably and more naturally the more that you've done it? Is it something that's gotten easier for you?
Absolutely. And actually it's fun now because I want to see how long I can go before the client really gets excited to want to book an appointment with me, even not knowing I do anything with marketing or websites, or how far I can go before I can book the appointment, because that's always been a mentor tip that I've learned from Sue is kind of just be quiet and just ask questions or let them talk, let them talk, let them talk. And it's actually fun now because it just makes you truly learn so much, and it just opens the doors for so many different opportunities.
It's funny you say that. I actually learned that from Sue myself. I used to not say anything because I just didn't know, and then I knew so much that I felt like I had to say so much. And then there were other times where I didn't quite know, so I tried to fill the space up with more words or more talking, and the quiet smile and nod really does work. It gets them talking more. So it sounds like you had a lot. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the random question mark that's in between the E and the N there. Um, Nice little typo. Anyway, it sounds like you did sort of like a pseudo 15-minute consultation in that initial conversation that you had with this gentleman. Did you do a more formal one? Did you schedule a 15-minute consult, or did you feel like you had those questions answered after your initial conversation with him?
So I wish that the 15-minute dialogue questionnaire was around while speaking to this client, but this was an earlier client. But I still went ahead and asked my own questions as it related to the need of my client in that conversation, just as I learned through you, Sarah, and the MA Web Center's training.
Awesome. And so, what ultimately made the client decide to do an appointment with you?
So during the time, me and my family were reviewing all the healthcare options that he had sent us. And by the way, we didn't make a decision whether to use him as a broker or not. However, in a follow-up phone call, I asked him if he had any flyers or information that I could possibly send out to my friends and family to help him get his name out there. And that was based on him telling me that he wants to grow in the area from a previous call. So at that point of me asking him, knowing that he didn't have anything online, I just wanted to see if he had flyers that I could maybe assist him with, that I could share with my friends and family. And he was so excited that I offered that, he then just flipped gears and asked me if I knew anyone that can help him with his website and his online presence. And then it just went from there. I was easily able to book the demo by saying one of my favorite lines is, it's not an area I specialize in, but let me hook you up with my guys. They're great and they could answer all your questions. The mornings or afternoons work better.
I
The
love that.
client, the client liked that I was local and that I also had a national and global affiliate relationship just in case I fell off Earth, just like his last guy did.
And yeah, actually, that question has come up a lot in the past week. How do you respond to the I like to do business with local business? That's exactly how I respond. I'm like, I am a local business, and we just are affiliated with a bigger brand. So I always like sometimes to even give an analogy just to let people know what we mean by that. If I owned a Volkswagen dealership, it doesn't mean that I own Volkswagen. I still own a local dealership. It's just that we sell Volkswagen cars because we love them, that kind of a thing. And so my relationship with MA Web Centers when I'm talking to, my potential website clients is really the same kind of relationship. We own our own business, and we're affiliated with this great team, and they'll be able to help you out, that kind of thing. All right, so what about the actual appointment? How did the appointment go?
So before that, Sarah, real quick, I love your analogy. The one that I also use as well is we have to have an affiliate partnership, because if I do everything locally and I am servicing, or I have your website on my server in my garage and my house explodes, well, your website's going to go down with it. So you might as well have your website with a secured partner, and that's why we have
Hmm.
a global partnership. So they kind of laugh at that, and they're like, wow, I didn't realize my website can go down if the guy's garage blows up. Well, yes, it
Yeah,
can.
exactly. And you're putting your 24/7 business in that hand. So good. I
Yeah.
love that. That's great.
So how did the appointment go? So the client purchased right on the call, and I think it's because I qualified him and asked him all those questions up front. Once I conducted the consultation in my own way and kept asking questions on each call and taking notes, it was very easy for me to edify the product specialist, qualify the candidate, and then tell the client that I was going to make sure that he gets all of his questions answered. And by the way, I didn't answer any of them. I just edified the support team.
That's awesome. The more qualified your appointment is, the more often that you'll get those one call closes, or the lesser amount of follow up that you'll have to do. I almost sang to you guys. All right, describe the follow up process. Well, it sounds like it closed right on the first call, so we're going to skip ahead. What do you think it was that ultimately made the client decide to buy?
I think it was a mix of me being a local contact for him, but also that he liked that MA Web Centers was an all-inclusive marketing strategy for his business with many options. He liked that I was local, but he also liked that there was tech support available, so anytime he needed to reach out.
Awesome. Love that. And that really does say a lot, you guys. There's a lot of folks that they make up their own wacky system, or they think they're selling websites, and they don't focus on the entire strategy. And as a result, the client, or the potential client, isn't really sure if they can validate the expense, right? They don't know what they're paying for. And it really, I mean, honestly, the simplicity of having everything in one administration is probably the number one thing that sells the solution for us. So that's good. I do want to just give you guys a quick little sneak peek. I don't want to tell you what the name is, but we are coming up with a logo and a brand name for our online strategy, because so far we're just like, we sell an entire online marketing strategy, but it doesn't have a name. And so we decided after, over a decade, that the online strategy really deserves its own name. So we're going to come up with a really great name that you guys can use. And it's going to be very much speaking to local business and the whole concept of supporting or buying local, or that kind of thing. And I think you guys are really going to find that it'll be easier to sell the entire solution rather than focusing on just the website part of it, so that you can be like Carla, and and have prospects that are really understanding that it's not just a website, but that it's everything that they're getting on top of that to help market the website as well. So, what is the client's method for designing the site? Was it a design package, or did they do it themselves?
Yes, so this client wanted to be very hands-on, and he made it well aware for me in the beginning. So this client purchased the website along with a 10-page design package. Before we started on the design wizard in the system, I used my own questionnaire on top of the design wizard one initially that engages the client even more about what their business objectives are, their business goals, who are their target audiences, things like that. And sometimes we like to think that every business owner wants to grow and grow, but if you don't ask that question, you may be surprised at what the owner's really thinking. So I like to take out any initial thought about what we think the client could need and ask more questions like, are you just come straight out and ask them, are you looking to expand your client base both online and offline? There's a difference, right? Why or why not? Are you looking to attract new clients, or are you just looking to provide either information or new information to existing clients? So there's a bunch of differences here. So I I never assume anything, and I just like to ask the client if they're looking to expand. It might sound like a silly question, but you may be surprised about what responses you get. So if you ask questions like that, that has really, really helped before I engage with any client doing the design questionnaire. So we did that, and then in addition, I knew it was going to be a large site based on the conversations that we had. So we actually put together a wireframe, sort of like a diagram on paper, of all the pages and the links before the design team even got involved, so we were all on the same page. And before we discussed anything with the design team, we laid out over 40 pages.
That's awesome. That's actually no, I mean honestly, it's really awesome. And just so you know, Carla, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the design center has now implemented a business targeted that the kinds of questions you were describing are now part of the design center process as well, so that they're less technical and more comprehensive and easy for the business owner to answer. So, did this client purchase any additional products, and what was their experience, if so?
Yes, so not only did the client have well over 10 pages, and we obviously had to work with the support team on adding those additional pages with an additional fee, but the client also purchased a responsive layout. And here's what happened with that. This site took over a year to develop, not just because of its mammoth size, but besides of them putting certain content on there, they had to send everything to New York State plus their attorneys to review all the content before it was laid out on the site for approval. So when we first started the site, responsive layout was not available. When we almost finished the site, when we were about 90% complete, the responsive layouts were available. The client then heard about the responsive design and wanted to go live with a responsive site. So instead of starting over from scratch, the design team was able to keep the existing layout, fine-tuning a couple of programming things. Of course, the client, there was an additional fee there, but the design team was able to keep the existing layout, reprogram everything, and made it responsive. The cool thing was, I didn't even know how all this process had to work because this all was kind of foreign to me, believe it or not. And I just went back to the team and let them handle it. And I stayed in contact with the client, and he appreciated that. So he got the responsive layout, and then in addition, he purchased the regional SEO package because he was new in the area and he wanted to expand. He wanted people to find him online by searching keywords and search words and phrases. He also purchased Google AdWords campaign and Facebook marketing. However, that was not at the launch of the site because those products weren't available at the time. So he ended up purchasing them only a few months ago when we rolled them out, and that was just based on me calling him and introducing him to the new products.
Honestly, that is just complete proof of concept right there. It was a follow-up call, and if anybody has noticed anything, a recurring theme with all of these case studies, every single presenter of every single case study has stayed in contact with their client from the moment that they make that initial conversation, and they followed up. They were involved somewhat in the appointment, made sure that they really edified the team. They maybe made a couple of phone calls to make sure that the client's process through design was going well, and then made the follow-up calls. And as a result, do you think it's worth it? She's got a happy client that has a responsive site that went on to purchase regional SEO, Google, and Facebook advertising. That's an incredible testimony. And then finally, did they lead to any additional prospects?
Yes. So once the site went live after a year or so, as I mentioned, So what I like to do is a couple of different things. I went ahead with this client because I knew he didn't have any collateral and marketing information. That just came out through the design. I went ahead and created 30 personalized note cards with his company logo on it, sort of like a thank you for your business. So these are great for when owners want to send out thank you cards on their own. It's branded on them, so it's just simply their logo on a plain white note card from Staples. It's very inexpensive. Sometimes I also like to create business cards like what Lisa had mentioned on a recent call. It's whatever works for you. There's a lot of inexpensive and effective methods to do that. So I went ahead and created these little note cards. I gave it to the client, and he actually called me up to tell me he thought of me while filling one out for one of his current clients, that he thought that I would be a great contact for his brother that has a real estate firm, and that he is looking to redo his website. So I went ahead and told him great, to give him my information, but took it one step further and said, why don't you give me his information? This way I know I'm going to follow up as well, and that referral alone is not just a referral, but it's now a warm lead, because I was referred to him by his brother. So it hasn't turned into a sale yet, but the follow-up has been in place, and we'll see.
Awesome. And then do you want to let us know a little bit about the testimony for what the website has done for their business?
Yeah, so the client is just super excited. He's a true believer because he's so analytical just by nature, that just having a website is not what he needed. He really needed a marketing strategy, and so he gets excited once a month. He actually calls me on his own, and he tells me it seems like he's getting 2 new clients a week. From He's now getting good on extending and doing his own Facebook ads and through all these other channels, but he's getting new clients left and right. He keeps looking at the Google Analytics, and he's just so ecstatic of all the tools that we have available for him.
Well, that's incredible. So I just want to wrap this up and just say thank you to Carla. I mean, that's an incredible testimony, guys. I hope that you guys understand the importance of building relationships with people, because if she didn't do that properly, then she wouldn't have had not even half of the stuff that it led to. And the other part of it is that really I took away is the part where um, you just got to keep it natural. You just have to be yourself, because people can tell. So, if you're in a situation where you're about to spend money, or you need to decide to spend your money somewhere, like we said in the lesson of the night, and like Carla said she did in this particular case, you just want to go ahead and sneak in a couple of questions just to get the conversation started. The more natural that feels and the less salesy that it feels, the more likely that they're going to want to talk to you even more. And as a result, you help them, they help you. It's mutually beneficial and everybody wins. So, Carla, thank you. You're incredible. I absolutely adore you. And I'm sure I'll see you at the regional convention in a couple of weeks.
Thank
All
you.
right. So let's see. We're going to finish off with just a couple of things and a couple of questions. Reminding you guys, hashtag love local business on there. If you have questions about this, just go to mawebcenters.com. There's a big banner right on the homepage. Go ahead and click on that, and it will talk to you more about the prizes that people can win and the ways that they can enter. And then the digital marketing product specialists are available as well. So really quickly, we're going to go ahead and pick our random name for the week. And this week we have June. Congratulations, June. You are this week's shop.com $20 gift card winner. And I do want to answer just a couple of quick questions that looked really great here. From Jackie, her question is, what if you aren't actually a local business? Can you guys give a sample response? And Jackie, I didn't want to interrupt Carla when she was talking, but what Jackie was talking about is when you're talking to somebody and the question comes up, well, we want to do business with a local, firm or a local person, and our response is generally, oh, well, we are a local business. And when it's not that we are a local business, there's some other warm connection that I can fall back on. So, because I'm not calling random people. I'm only calling them if I have some sort of connection to them or some sort of reason why I'm calling them. And so it could be that, we vacation in that area often, or maybe we just vacation there once, or I heard of them through a friend or a family member, and there's a warm connection at some point. So it's really about just easing that fear. The fear behind that question isn't that they have to work with somebody local because it's just a rule of theirs. The reason they say that is they want to be able to communicate with somebody. And so if you're giving them that warm connection, you're easing that fear, um, by telling them that you're going to be there because XYZ. So that would be my response to that. Okay. So that's everything, and lots of great comments. Everybody's loving Carla's testimonial and case study. I really, really appreciate that. And Susan, yeah, I know. I think actually I remember seeing Susan Aprati. I think I remember seeing your question in the Facebook group. She had a similar situation, a similar story last week where somebody said the same thing. I want to work with local, and a lot of people jumped in there and gave you some great possible responses, but really it does fall down to easing the fear of you not being there. And that's exactly what you want to do. So great. Okay, everybody. Well, make it a great week. Please continue to do those challenges every week. I'm telling you, if you just do the challenge, it gets you one step further, and it just keeps you prospecting. It keeps you expanding that names list, and it keeps you, keeps you honest. So, have a wonderful week, everybody. If you have any questions, we'll talk on Facebook, and we'll be in touch. Have a great one. Take care.